What's up, everybody? So we're back out in the shop with another Shop Talk Tuesday, and in this episode we are working on one of the knives that I forged on one of my live streams. So this guy right here. Now I'm going to leave the link for the live stream in the comment section down below, so if you want to go check it out, it has a lot of real in-depth knowledge on how I got to this point right here. So explaining what I'm doing in the motions and the process, and it's not something that I time-lapse through because it's a live stream, so everything is explained. And it's like a 2-hour long video of me going through and showing you exactly what I'm doing in the moment to get to this point right here. I do things like I draw on my dry erase board where I actually did, you know, the profile and things like that, and kind of gave ideas for how to move material in certain places, how to create a heel like this, how to create this little end to your handle here, distal tapers, the profile, why I moved certain things certain places. So if you're interested in seeing all of the in-depth parts of that, go check out the live stream. Like I said, it's in the comment section down below. But for this right here, it was kind of inspired by like a Neil Kamamura, Jason Knight type of profile. I did something a little bit different on it where I put more of a acute angle in this little area right here. I typically make that a little bit wider, but I saw a lot of their knives and I thought I'm gonna go ahead and try that and see how comfortable it is. I think it's gonna be a good looking knife. It has a very subtle recurve to it. Nice super drop to the point, which is gonna be a really comfortable. It's almost like a spear. That tip is very centered in your hand. But I don't know how far we're going to get into this build in this particular episode. What I can tell you is that it's most likely going to look like it did in the thumbnail. So if you're wondering how far we're going to get, if you saw the thumbnail, we're getting that far. And I'm going to show you what I did to get to that point. Got to start this off drilling some holes in the tang for some pins. Then we got to do a heat treat. We already forged in our bevels. We're still going to be grinding them in, but we got to heat treat this puppy. And then we're going to forge in the bevels post heat treat. And then we'll see where we go. So first things first, let's drill some pinholes and get it going. So when it comes to my pinholes, a lot of times what I do is I will eyeball where I want them to be. I don't tend to do a ton of measuring in this. I look at what really looks good at the eye. You know, I'll draw roughly where the half point is here, and then the half point here. I know that I'm going to want it to come back about at least ½ inch, at most 3/4 of an inch, but I want to be in the meat of this, so we're going to come back about 3/4 of an inch right there. Now I could do one of two things. I could put 2 pins back here or just one. I think I'm just going to do one, and I'm going to go by what looks clean here. And we're going to come right inside this little area here. Now this doesn't have to be the same size. It doesn't have to be exactly the same distance from here as it is from here. There's a couple of things that tend to happen at this point right here. You'll have a little bevel that comes back from the front. And then what'll end up happening is there's a top line. So this part touches the ricasso. Then there's a line that comes back further. And then you'll have that distance from that line to your pin, and it will kind of play tricks on your eye. So right now though, we are looking like just over 5/8 of an inch, and then right here just under 5/8 of an inch. But I think that whenever I put the bevel on this front and then get everything together, that it's going to end up lining up exactly where I want it. You know, a lot of people, they want to try and do a whole bunch of measurements, but you go by what looks good in the end result, and you'll be fine. You can always put more than one pin, do all of that stuff. But I think in the end result, whenever it's all said and done, this is going to look exactly how I want it to be. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to punch the centers on this. That way we can go ahead and get it drilled. So what I like to do on a lot of my blades is I hollow grind the handle. I actually got this idea from Jason Knight. So I'll hollow grind out the center here, and then all I got to do is just use this bottom wheel. I don't have a small wheel attachment, and that's perfectly fine. For what I'm going to do, this little 2-inch wheel that's on here is perfectly fine. We're going to come in here, hollow grind that out, get as close to the pins as we can. I don't have a ton of real estate here or here, so I can't get too crazy with it. But the nice thing is, once you hollow out this center, you only have to worry about flattening just the edge of this to get it to marry up to the scales real well, instead of trying to flatten the whole entire tang and get everything smooth. So what that's going to do is a couple of things. We're going to save weight by removing all that material right there. Plus we're going to give it a pocket for the epoxy to sit in. We're only going to have to worry about flattening this outside border so that it marries up to the scales well. And also we ground all the way to this pinhole and all the way to this pinhole. So the epoxy, whenever we pinch these together, is going to come out of the pinhole, go all the way to here, connect to this pinhole, go all the way back to the other side, connect to that pinhole. So the epoxy is going to work its way all the way around there and give us a really good fit up with our scales. And then on the back side of the scales, I'll also hollow grind them just a little bit. I'll create a nice pocket that connects both pinholes and everything. So now I just need to copy that to the other side, and then we should be good to go ahead and heat treat. So just like you've seen me do in a lot of other videos, I always come in with a nice Nicholson file, and I file off the decarb layer that's on the edge here so that we get to this nice, crisp, high-pitched sound. Once we get to that point, then we can use our 65 HRC file. And we're trying to put a decent amount of pressure on this. It might not look like it, but we want to see if it's going to actually grab. And it's not. If I was to just file right on this edge, it would bite a little bit because there's a little bit of layer of a decarb on the side here. But on the actual cutting edge, we are nice and hard. We're definitely over 65 HRC, which is really easy to achieve with some 80 CRV2. So now what we need to do is we need to temper this back. This one, I am going to do your standard 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2 so that we can get just over 60 HRC. My goal is about 61, 62 HRC, so I want it to skate a 60 HRC file, but really, really bite on a 65. So that's the goal. We're going to put it in the oven, get it tempered. So all I did there was went through and made a nice uniform edge thickness all the way down. With the forge texture, you could have little mountains and valleys and things like that. So we wanted to go through, get it nice and clean, and then start bringing the bevels up. Before we do that, we're actually going to grind the edge thickness down to roughly where we want it to be, our final thickness. And then we can go ahead and switch to a new belt and finish grinding the bevels up with the newer belt. So So now we're going to go straight from 36 grit to a 120 grit belt. So now that we got through that 120, we're going to go ahead and hit it with the Scotch-Brite belt. Clean everything up a little bit. I like to do that prior to hand sanding. Of course, you can just leave it with the Scotch belt finish. A lot of people do that. But I want to hand sand this and get a nice satin finish on it. And then end up doing my vinegar soak patina on there. I think it would look really good with the forged texture. So we're going to hit it with this and then go from there. Alright guys, let's go ahead and wrap this Shop Talk Tuesday up here. A little bit of recap. We were able to get our holes drilled. We were able to get our fuller done in the actual tang to lighten it up, thin it out a little bit. Plus, we got our heat treat done. We got our tempering done. And we got our bevels done. Now, of course, this is not the end result of the blade right here. It looks really good right now. The bevels are nice and crisp. They look nice. But to get the actual full effect of them, that's what we're going to do in the next episode, where we actually go ahead and get the finish done on the blade, all of that stuff. We got to do a few things like maker's mark. We got to do the vinegar soak. We got to do the Scotch-Brite finish. We got to do all that stuff. It's going to have a satin finish, and the bevels are going to end up blending up into this forged texture area. It's just going to add a cool extra dimension to the blade. Then, of course, we've got the handle to work on. I've got a piece of beautiful material that this handle is going to be worked on with. I think it's looking good. The edge is nice and super straight, nice and thin. Really like the way that's looking. So, we were able to get all that stuff done in this episode here, while I was still working on all of the other stuff in the background and forging other knives and getting all of these projects right here finished for Blade Show. Guys, I'm happy that we're able to do the Shop Talk Tuesdays again. I'm enjoying this, being able to come out here, film, and do this stuff and kind of break up the monotony of doing all of these multiple, same style builds that I'm doing over here. Doing something custom and one-off here and there is absolutely awesome. Thank y'all for coming by. If you would, give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Guys, y'all have an amazing day. Y'all stay safe out there, and I'll catch y'all next time.